Steelers Nation, stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you could change the entire direction of this franchise for the next decade. We finally have quarterback news that actually makes sense, and it's happening sooner than you think. Hit that subscribe button immediately because you do not want to miss a single update as this story unfolds. We're bringing you the most important Steelers news every single day, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for what's coming next. All right, let's dive right into this. For months now, we've been hearing all kinds of wild speculation about the Steelers' quarterback situation, trade rumors, free agency whispers, mock drafts putting us in impossible positions. And honestly, most of it has been complete fantasy. We've heard about elite prospects that would require mortgaging our entire draft capital. We've seen mock drafts with the Steelers somehow jumping into the top 5. We've listened to talking heads suggest moves that would cripple this team for years. But today, something different happened. Today, for the first time in this entire draft cycle, a quarterback entered the conversation who actually fits what Pittsburgh does. Not a pipe dream. Not some guy we'd have to sell our soul to acquire, but a real, legitimate option that could land in Pittsburgh without destroying our future. His name is Ty Simpson, and the moment ESPN's Pete Thamel broke the news that the Alabama quarterback officially declared for the 2026 NFL Draft, something clicked. I immediately thought to myself, that's a Steelers quarterback right there. That fits exactly what this organization does. Let me explain why this is so significant. Simpson isn't being hyped up as the next generational talent. He's not in the same conversation as some of the other quarterbacks who are being projected as potential top 5 picks. Guys like Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore Jr. are dominating the early draft conversation. Those are the quarterbacks everyone assumes will go in the top 10, maybe even top 5. And here's the thing, the Steelers were never going to be in position to grab one of those guys, not without a monumental trade that would cost multiple first-round picks, not without giving up assets we desperately need to keep building this roster. But Ty Simpson? That's a completely different scenario. That's a quarterback who could realistically fall to a spot where the Steelers can make a move without sacrificing the future. Let me give you some background on who this kid actually is. Ty Simpson walked into Alabama as one of the most exciting rising quarterback prospects in all of college football. Think about that for a second. Alabama. That's not some mid-tier program. That's the most prestigious football factory in the country. That's NFL-level coaching from day one. That's playing in a pro-style offensive system that translates directly to the next level. That's facing elite competition every single Saturday. The pressure, the spotlight, the expectations, Simpson has been living in that environment. And that experience is invaluable when projecting to the NFL. Now let's be completely honest about his college performance. Statistically, his season wasn't flawless. Especially down the stretch, his efficiency numbers started to decline. There were games where he struggled with decision-making. There were moments where you could see him pressing too hard. And that's exactly where some NFL scouts started to pump the brakes a little bit. They started questioning whether his ceiling was high enough to justify a first-round selection. But here's what those stat sheets don't always capture. Let's talk about the actual traits that translate to professional football. Simpson has legitimate arm strength. He can make every throw required in an NFL playbook. He's got mobility outside the pocket. He's not a statue back there. When protection breaks down, he can extend plays with his legs. He's got real experience in high-pressure, high-stakes games. And perhaps most importantly for Pittsburgh, he's still developing. He's raw in some areas. He hasn't peaked yet. And that right there is exactly what makes him such an intriguing fit for the Steelers. Because let's talk about what Pittsburgh actually needs at the quarterback position. They don't need a savior who's going to walk in on day one and carry this team to a Super Bowl. That's not the situation we're in right now. What the Steelers need is the next guy. They need someone who can sit, learn, develop, and be ready when the time comes. And if the Aaron Rodgers situation plays out the way many people expect, Simpson could have the perfect developmental timeline. Think about it. If Rodgers comes back for one more season, which seems increasingly likely based on everything we're hearing, Simpson doesn't have to be thrown into the fire immediately. He gets a full year to adjust to NFL speed. He gets to learn from one of the most intelligent quarterbacks to ever play this game. He gets to study, absorb, and prepare without the weight of an entire franchise on his shoulders from day one. That's exactly how you develop a young quarterback the right way. That's how you avoid ruining a talented prospect by asking too much too soon. Now let's talk about why Simpson is such a realistic option from a draft positioning standpoint. This is where it gets really interesting for Steelers fans. The Steelers currently hold multiple picks in the upcoming draft. They're projected to have around 12 total selections. That gives them incredible flexibility. They wouldn't have to trade up aggressively to land Simpson. In fact, here's a scenario that feels very much like vintage Steelers strategy. They could potentially trade back from their initial first-round position, accumulate additional picks, and still be in position to grab Simpson late in the first round or early in the second. That's the kind of move this front office loves, adding assets while still getting your guy. That's smart team building. That's how you stay competitive year after year without boom or bust gambles. And let's address the elephant in the room. If Aaron Rodgers returns for another season, this team is absolutely not drafting a quarterback in the top 10. It wouldn't make sense. Rodgers gives you immediate stability at the most important position in football. He gives you a legitimate chance to compete for a championship right now. So with Rodgers under center, the Steelers can focus their early draft capital on other critical needs. And trust me, those needs are real. Defensive tackle is a major concern. Cornerback depth has been tested all season. Wide receiver depth behind the top guys needs to be addressed. There are big decisions looming at left tackle and left guard. This roster, as talented as it is, isn't one quarterback away from being perfect. That's why forcing a quarterback pick early would actually be a mistake. But taking a quarterback at the right value, in the right spot, with the right developmental plan, that's completely different. That's sustainable. That's how championship organizations operate. With 12 expected draft picks, the Steelers can genuinely have their cake and eat it too. They can address immediate roster needs with their premium selections. They can add depth and developmental pieces throughout the middle rounds. And they can still take a legitimate swing at the quarterback of the future without reaching or panicking. As a die-hard Steelers fan, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Ty Simpson just feels like a Steelers quarterback. He's not the flashiest name. He's not generating the most hype. He's not being crowned as the next big thing before he even steps on an NFL field. But he's tough. He's coachable. He's hungry. He's got something to prove. And historically, that's exactly the profile of quarterbacks who have thrived in Pittsburgh. This organization has always found success with guys who had a chip on their shoulder. Guys who weren't handed anything. Guys who had to earn every single snap. So now I want to hear directly from you, Steelers Nation. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Would you be comfortable with the Steelers trading back, adding picks, and grabbing Ty Simpson late in the first round? Do you love the idea of him sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for a year and learning from a future Hall of Famer? Or do you think Pittsburgh should wait even longer to address the quarterback position? I'm reading every single comment, and I want to know where you stand on this. But hold on, we're not done yet. Because while we're talking about the future with Simpson, the Steelers just made another move that tells us a lot about how they're thinking right now. And if you weren't paying close attention, you probably missed it entirely. The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially signed veteran cornerback Trey Flowers to their practice squad. Now, before you brush this off as just another minor roster move, let me explain why this actually matters. This isn't some random signing off the street. The Steelers originally elevated Flowers to the 53-man roster on Christmas Day. Then earlier this week, they released him. And now, just days later, they're bringing him right back on the practice squad. That sequence tells you something important. This is about depth. This is about familiarity. This is about insurance at a position where you can never have too many capable bodies. Let me give you the full context on who Trey Flowers actually is, because his resume might surprise you. This is not a rookie. This is not some developmental project they're taking a flyer on. Trey Flowers is an 8-year NFL veteran. Let that sink in for a second. 8 years in this league. That means he's survived in the most competitive professional sports environment on the planet for nearly a decade. Over his career, he's appeared in 87 games. He's made 43 starts. He's recorded 4 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, 22 passes defended, and 270 total tackles, with 211 of those being solo stops. Those are legitimate NFL production numbers. This isn't some guy who's been riding the bench his whole career. He's been on the field, making plays, contributing to NFL defenses. Flowers was originally drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in the 5th round of the 2018 NFL Draft out of Oklahoma. During his 4 seasons in Seattle, he started 40 games. That matters significantly because Seattle has consistently played a physical, disciplined, fundamentally sound style of defense under Pete Carroll. Sound familiar? That's very similar to the defensive philosophy Pittsburgh employs. So Flowers coming from that system means he already understands the concepts, the techniques, and the mentality that the Steelers value. There's natural alignment there. Since leaving Seattle, Flowers has had stints with the Bengals, Falcons, Jaguars, Colts, and Bears. Most recently, he played for the Detroit Lions, appearing in 2 games during the 2025 season. Now, some people might look at that and think, oh, he's just a journeyman bouncing around the league. But I look at it differently. That's a player who has experience in multiple defensive schemes. That's someone who's been in different locker rooms with different coaching philosophies. That's versatility and adaptability. And in today's NFL, especially for a depth piece, that experience is incredibly valuable. So why did the Steelers bring him back to the practice squad? Let me break down what I think is happening here. First, they clearly trust him in their system. He's already familiar with the playbook. There's zero learning curve if they need to elevate him on game day. Second, he's a true plug-and-play veteran. If someone in the secondary goes down with an injury, Flowers can step in without panicking, without being overwhelmed. He's seen it all. Third, this move is about stability, not upside. The Steelers aren't looking for Flowers to become a Pro Bowl cornerback. They're looking for reliability. They're looking for someone who can execute assignments, play within the scheme, and not hurt the team. That's exactly what veteran depth is supposed to provide. Let's be completely real, Steelers Nation. Cornerback depth in the NFL is never a luxury. It's an absolute necessity. Injuries happen constantly at that position. Late-season wear and tear is incredibly real, especially for cornerbacks who are getting targeted repeatedly every single week. And playoff football? Playoff football exposes weak links faster than anything else. One bad cornerback in January can end your entire season. The Steelers know this. They've lived it. That's why bringing back someone like Trey Flowers, even just to the practice squad, is a smart, calculated move. It's about being prepared for any scenario. It's about not getting caught short-handed if something goes wrong. As a fan, I actually really like this signing. Is Trey Flowers the future of the Steelers secondary? Absolutely not. But is he exactly the type of veteran presence you want on your practice squad in January when you're preparing for a potential playoff run? 100% yes. This is the Steelers doing what they do best, planning ahead, not panicking, making sure they have every base covered. This organization doesn't leave things to chance. They don't hope everything works out. They prepare for every possible situation. Now, here's what I find really fascinating when you step back and look at both of these moves together. On one hand, you have the future. A young quarterback prospect like Ty Simpson who represents the next chapter of Steelers football. A realistic draft target who fits the timeline, the budget, and the developmental philosophy of this organization. Someone who could learn behind a legend and be ready to take over when the moment arrives. And on the other hand, you have the present. A veteran like Trey Flowers being brought back specifically for depth and stability. A move that doesn't grab headlines but protects the team from worst-case scenarios. A decision that prioritizes preparation over flash. When you put those two moves side by side, you start to see the bigger picture of how this front office operates. They're not just thinking about today. They're not just thinking about next week. They're thinking about today, tomorrow, and 3 years from now, all at the same time. And that right there is why the Steelers have been one of the most consistently successful franchises in NFL history. They don't chase shiny objects. They don't panic when things get difficult. They build methodically. They plan comprehensively. They develop patiently. Whether it's grooming the next franchise quarterback behind Aaron Rodgers or making sure the secondary doesn't fall apart in a crucial January game, every single move tells a story. And that story is always the same: preparation, development, sustainability. This is Steelers football, and honestly, it gives me so much confidence as a fan, because teams that win championships year after year don't do it by accident. They don't do it by making desperate moves or chasing headlines. They do it by building strong foundations, making smart decisions, and staying true to their principles. So Steelers Nation, here's what I need from you right now. Stay patient with this process. Trust that this front office knows exactly what they're doing. Stay loud and keep supporting this team through every step of this journey. If you enjoyed this breakdown and you want to stay updated on every single development with the Steelers, smash that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel and help us reach our goal of 3,000 subscribers. We're building something special here, and you're a huge part of it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Ty Simpson as the quarterback of the future? Are you feeling confident about the depth moves? What do you want to see happen next? Let's keep this conversation going. This is your home for real Steelers talk, and we're just getting started. Here we go, Steelers.